This is a preview of my Gimp Premium video tutorial. To watch the full video, click on the link below and sign up for Gimp Premium. Before we get started, I want to show you the goal of this cup, the mentality and the logic behind it. So if you look over here, you can see I have a layer group and then my background image. So my background image is nothing more than just gray with a small gradient at the bottom to kind of add a little bit of effect. And then the top one, the layer group here, is the actual coffee cup itself. Inside of that group, you have the shadow layer, which creates the shadow underneath, and then three more layers that break down the different elements of the cup. You have the cup body, the grip, and the actual lid. And then inside of those groups, inside of the cup group, you'll notice that I have a bunch of layers here. As you can see, all of these layers are just shading layers. They just shade different aspects of the image. And then your bottommost image is the actual color itself. So again, if I hide all of these layers, all the shading layers, you can see this is nothing but a plain color. Even if we turn off the layer mask, you can even see it's just a single color with a layer mask applied and then a bunch of layers with layer modes that add all of the shading and all of the texture to the cup. Now the reason why this is important is because if you do it this way, again, it's all about control. So let's click on this layer and let's click colors, hue, saturation, and from here we can easily change the color of our cup and all of that shading information stays the same. We can change the saturation, change the lightness, and without really doing too much at all, we can change the color of this cup to whatever we want it to be. And the same goes for the grip and the lid. If you look at the grip, you can see again it's a series of layers. If I turn off all these layer modes, the grip is just a single color. But if I turn all these back on, you can see all of those add all of that shading and all of that styling. So once you create all of those layer modes with all the styling and all the shading, you can change the colors on these cups until you get it to a color scheme that you really like. So again, hue, saturation, and I can completely manipulate my cup. And then last but not least, you have the lid, and once again it's the same exact thing. You have a series of layers that shade various elements of the lid, and when you put them together they create the final image. And then again, colors, hue, saturation. If you adjust the color of the lid, you can change the color. So I just wanted to go over like I said, a little bit of the logic behind it, and I wanted to give you a bit of an overview and overall understanding on how this works and why I end up using dozens and dozens of layers for a coffee cup. So I hope that makes sense. Now let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I continued to tweak my path because again, I still wasn't quite happy with it. I thought the top looked a little bit too wide, so I just clicked on the scale tool and I made it a little bit thinner. So now mine looks kind of like this. So again, I clicked on the brush tool, I'm on my background layer, and I'm just going to the sides and I'm drawing in two imaginary lines. There, I think that looks a little better. Okay, so now we're going to start drawing the lid. What's interesting about the lid is it's basically the same exact ring. It's going to be on the same exact plane as this one. The only difference is it's going to be wider. So we're going to just duplicate this path, and we are going to then click on the scale tool, and we're going to make the lid ring a little bit wider. And then hit the scale tool. And just go ahead and rename that as the maybe bottom lid ring, and I named this one wrong. Let's name it the top cup ring. There we go. So now we have the top cup ring, the bottom cup ring, and the bottom lid ring. And then from there, just go ahead and tweak your bottom lid ring until you're happy with it. Alright, just like that. And I went ahead and actually made my my ring just a little bit taller and a little bit not quite so wide. I just tweaked it just a hair. So now I have my large lid ring. I'm sorry, not the large, the bottom. Keep messing up my names. So the bottom, top, and the bottom. Alright, so what we're going to do is create a series of layers and start organizing all of this stuff from the get-go. So we're going to right click and click New Layer Group, and we're going to name this layer group Cup. We're going to click New Layer and set that layer to, well, I guess that's not necessarily important. The important thing is to make sure your layer groups are named. And we're going to fill this layer with whatever color we want our actual cup to be. And I actually happen to have a color here already set for what I had used before, which was this HTML notation. So if you copy C8914A into here and hit tab, it'll actually change the color to the exact color I'm using. So just hit OK. Fill that color in, and then now of course we don't want the whole background and everything colored that, we just want the shape of the cup colored that. So we're going to use a layer mask to do that. We're going to right click on our cup shape layer or cup shape path and click Path to Selection. Then go back over, right click on our layer and click Add Layer Mask and set the layer mask to Selection and then click Add. Now hit Select None. And there we go. We now have our first layer set, defining the color of our actual cup. We're going to repeat that process with the grip and the lid. So right click, click New Layer, right click, click New Layer Group. We'll name this one Grip. I'm going to move it up and then add a new layer. Hit OK. Fill it in with the grip color that I used, which was this number here, 9B562D, and then click OK. Fill that whole layer in with that color. Right click, go over to your path, right click on the grip shape path and click Path to Selection. Right click on your layer mask, set Add Layer Mask, set it to Selection and click Add. Now hit Select None. And then one more time we're going to right click, click New Layer Group again, name this layer group Lid, and we also want this above both of these, above the cup layer at least. Right click, click New Layer, hit OK. Go over to your path, and this time it's going to be a little bit different. Well, it seems like it's going to be a little bit different, but actually you're going to take the whole outer shape, this whole shape right here, and make it a single color, and then we'll do the shading on everything else from there. So right click on the outer lid shape and click Path to Selection. Go back over, right click on this, click Add Layer Mask, set it to Selection and click Add, click Select None. And I did this one backwards, but the order doesn't matter. You can add the layer mask before you add the color. So now go over to your colors, and this time we use 8E654C. Or, you can use your own colors, whatever you want. And then just fill that whole layer with that color. Now zoom out. And if we hide our layers, if we hide our paths, you can see that we're starting to take shape of our cup.